Universal theme parks always love to try and immerse you in the movie making process. They also love to put you in a room with a natural disaster special effects demonstration, which first you spend 10 minutes watching a video about how they made said effects. Hurricane effects came in 2010 at Universal Singapore. Earthquakes and even tornadoes with the opening of Twister Ride It Out, but before that at Universal Studios Hollywood came Backdraft.
Say, you haven't been to Universal Studios for a while, have you?
Universal Studios? No, I guess I haven't had a lot of free time lately.
Well, it's not the Universal you remember. There's the E.T. Adventure. The live excitement of Backdraft, California's hottest new attraction.
Now that's entertainment.
Backdraft is a 5-alarm special effects thriller that puts you in the middle of a raging inferno.
Backdraft, a 1991 movie directed by Ron Howard and starring Kurt Russell, William Baldwin, and Robert De Niro, follows the events of 2 firefighters of the Chicago Fire Department on the trail of a serial arsonist. Universal had a large number of movie hits which would turn into attractions within its parks during the 90s. The third highest grossing movie of the whole of the 90s was Jurassic Park. Also in the top 25 were Twister, The Mummy, Terminator 2, and Men in Black, but keep scrolling down the list, way down the list, and at 170th you would find Backdraft. The movie released in May 1991, made on a $40 million budget and would go on to take $152 million at the box office. Response to the movie was mixed, with the special effects and performance receiving high praise, but many thought the story was poor. Overall though, many considered it a strong action movie. Nominated for multiple Academy Awards, it remains the second highest grossing firefighter movie ever created. After I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry.
I'd like to talk to you about your domestic partnership.
Oh, jeez. Naturally though, no matter the box office or response to the movie, it would make the ideal link to create a fire effects show.
Feel the intensity as temperatures around you reach 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
Opening in the summer of 1992, the show at Universal Studios Hollywood was to take over part of Soundstage 30, previously home to recordings of The Munsters, The $6 Million Man, and the 1962 film To Kill a Mockingbird. Costing $10 million to build and design, after entering into the Backdraft Filming Center, the host introduced a video featuring director Ron Howard, who explains what a backdraft actually is.
What is a backdraft? Well, the technical explanation is a fire that has burned out all the oxygen in a room, leaving only superheated gases, over 2,000 degrees, just waiting for a fresh breath of air.
And how tirelessly the crew worked under demanding conditions to realistically portray fire.
Backdraft. A tireless cast and crew working under demanding conditions to realistically portray fire.
Sound familiar?
I'm Bill Paxton. I play a storm chaser determined to confront that mystery by getting as close as possible to a raging Twister.
And I'm Helen Hunt.
Twister was an extreme filmmaking experience from start to finish. We were staging things that had never been tried. They had 20 refrigerated semi-trucks full of 400-pound blocks of ice that they chipped and blasted right at us.
But I knew that getting these shots would be very hazardous for the actors and the entire film crew. Every day they found themselves in the middle of flame, smoke, flying ash, and toppling scenery.
Next, you entered the second pre-show scene, this time featuring actors Scott Glenn and Kurt Russell talking about the difficulties that actors went through to make the movie as realistic looking as possible. While the first scene doesn't tell you much about the actual creation of the effects, this one went a little more into detail, explaining the use of models and how a dummy was set on fire for the fall in the finale of the movie. As Kurt Russell explained about how they wanted to give the fire a character all of its own, a live demonstration of rotating fire springs to life, exploding into a ball of fire right in front of you.
In fact, there was one that seemed to have a mind of its own. It could even be considered beautiful. But though it may seem harmless, don't let it seduce you. For without warning, it might suddenly turn.
The last section and the highlight of the attraction inside the huge soundstage presented an empty warehouse set, similar to the ending of the movie. A fire is seen to start in the office on the other side of the set. Shortly after, it explodes into a ball of flame. Massive explosions trigger throughout the set and ash falls all over. The roof collapses and the fire demonstration is over. You just experienced Backdraft. The fire effects used in the show are actually created by gas flames, which are nearly silent and make no noise. To make this scene more intense, a fire soundtrack is played to create the illusion of a roaring fire. The audio recording includes all of the sounds you hear inside the show building. Rarely, this would not play, which would leave you watching the show in silence. Some of the effects right in front of you could reach up to 2,000 degrees, with over 40 effects overlapping during the performance. Each show used 1,000 cubic feet of natural gas, which is about the same as a typical house used in 1 year in 1991. This display though required a special gas line directly to the soundstage. Safety was obviously important for the show, and the set was built inside a concrete building. Between the guests, the action studio engineers designed a cooled air curtain to shield visitors from most of the heat. Fans actually blew on you while watching the show to make the performance feel closer and hotter. A ventilation system replaced all of the air inside the scene every minute. That is over 200,000 cubic feet of air. The building also featured a high-tech flood system. All of the props were designed to withstand the heat over 200 times per day. Finally, the walls are covered in a coating material to be flame resistant, which was the same as industrial refineries used. Just over a year after opening in 1992, as 500 guests were watching the fire effects, real firefighters were called to the attraction, but this time they were dealing with a real fire. An air conditioning contractor working on the roof accidentally started a blaze while soldering a copper pipe. During the process, sparks fell into the cardboard air conditioning ducts and started a fire that blew thick black smoke into the attraction. At first, guests understandably just thought it was part of the show, until they started being evacuated. The fire was estimated to cause $150,000 in damage, but was put out within 15 minutes, showcasing to those inside the importance of the message during the pre-show.
On our set, we had the constant supervision of Chicago's finest firefighters. And from them, I pass on this tip. If you hear a fire engine, get out of the way. They're not going to the movies.
It reopened the next day. 4 years later in 1996, another incident would happen, but this time not with fire, but water. Visitors enjoying the attraction got soaked when the display accidentally triggered the powerful sprinkler system. As 145 visitors stood watching the warehouse burst into flames, the safety system began pumping 1,000 gallons of water a minute into the room. The system had not been used for so long that the water had been sitting in the pipes and came out black, with everyone walking out looking like they were covered in soot. Universal offered them dry clothes and took them to a hotel for a shower. The attraction existed for 19 years. First planned to officially close in 2009, it stayed open an extra year to help with the temporary closure of attractions under refurbishment. It officially closed on April 11, 2010 to be replaced by Transformers The Ride, which opened 2 years later. While Backdraft may not have been a classic movie which many remember, it does at least have a great soundtrack by Hans Zimmer. The attraction would thrill many visitors over the years with its special effects fire demonstration. Fear not though, because if you didn't get to experience this attraction, things are still heating up over at Universal Studios Japan, where the ride opened with the park in 2001, 10 years after the movie. It still operates to this day with a few minor changes from the original Hollywood version.
バックドラフト。それは火災現場でよく見られる現象です。
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Weekly. Backdraft shared many similarities to Universal Orlando's Twister Ride It Out, which we'll be taking a look at in the future. But which do you think is better? Let me know in the comments below. A special thank you to our Patreons for supporting the channel. Check us out on Patreon if you would like to get early releases of upcoming expeditions, follow us on Twitter and Instagram to get updates, and make sure you subscribe to join us on future expeditions. We will see you next time. Oh, and in 2018, Universal confirmed they will be making Backdraft 2.